Whoa, shit! Welcome to the Metal Robot Reviews channel. I'm your host, Tom McKay. Interesting geography fact. In Antarctica, there is an underground lake called Loch Vostok. It's one of the many 400 known underground lakes that was named by the Russians. So I'm pretty sure the one that you guys care about the most is Loch Vostok, a 5-piece extreme prog metal band with the exact same name from Sweden. Because nothing says metal like an underground lake in the Antarctic. Actually, you know what? That sounds pretty fucking brutal. It makes me wonder what the penguins are moshing to in that underground lake. And you know what? That is all you should ever think about as we talk about Loch Vostok from this point on. But anyways, Loch Vostok came back around 2000 and put out 6 albums since. That's with getting almost nothing in return other than the ability to make kick-ass prog music. And this weekend marks the release of their 7th full-length, Strife, said to be more unexpected compared to previous releases. Now, full disclaimer, I did not hear about this band ahead of time. I have no idea who these guys are. Most of my information that I'm getting from these guys is based off of my knowledge of the archives. So, without further ado, Strife. Let's start with the vocals. Teddy Merlell is singing his heart out on songs like Summer and The Apologists Are the Enablers, giving us operatic cleans while also giving us throaty shrieks. Now, Teddy has no off switch when it comes to determining which types of vocal styles is required for each song. He seems to be masterclass at doing this. His lyric writing is just as good, with themes of loss of everything, from friends to loved ones to their homes. You know. Because global warming's a bitch. Now, there might be a few problems with his vocal performance, but we can get back to that later. Just sit tight. Next up, the drums. Holy shit. I think we just found the new award winner for Most Angry at the Snare Drum, topping the previous title holder, Lars Ulrich. That person is Lawrence Dinamarca. His style is a mix of a lot of the classic heavy metal tropes with modern metal prowess. Lawrence's drumming is lightning fast and as well as heavy hitting on songs like Babylonian Groove and Yure, while also knowing when to calm the fuck down on songs like Forever. Now, his drumming will come into question in a bit as well, but we can get back to that later. The keyboards. You know, I don't really know if Fredrik Klingwall is actually doing anything on this album. I mean, I'm sure he is, but if he is, he's pushed way to the back on this album. And yet when I do hear him, he's not really doing a lot to really accentuate the album in any way. He's backups, so I can't really comment too much on what he's actually doing. Guitars and bass. Now, I put these two instruments together because their style is very similar to each other. And they also bring up the problems that I was talking about earlier, but before we get into that, let's talk about what's actually good about these instruments. Teddy Merlell and Nicholas Kupper are quite the spectacle when it comes to these licks and solos. And Jimmy Mattson is no slouch on the bass either. While the rhythm work is very nice, it's not too bad, it's not really anything I also haven't heard in the metal scene before. But these solos! You can't make a cake much more sweeter than it already is. Yet if these solos coated that cake like a nice, savory frosting, the impossible becomes possible. Though I'm not sure how Cold Delicious Treats would do that far south. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'll stop with the Antarctic puns, okay? I'm sorry. Sorry. But okay, you guys are probably questioning what the hell I was talking about when I mentioned there were a few problems with the band. I mean, I can feel their penguin feathers growing anxious.
Okay, last time I swear.
Well, there's actually a couple things about this band that needs to be addressed, period. First off, when I said these guys were progressive metal, I wasn't just thinking of bands like Dream Theater or Rush, but I was more as well thinking about bands like Between the Buried and Me and Periphery. Bottom line, this album seems to favor the good old genty style that lives in the metal scene. And just saying that word alone made almost everybody in the audience have a fucking stroke, didn't it? Look, like gent or not, believe me, I love gent, but even I can admit that it's not the most liked style in the metal scene. And these guys seem to have adopted that style on this album, which can set some people off. But that's not the key issue. The band themselves aren't bad. They're really good, actually. But when I was doing research on this band, I did this before I dived into the album. I did it the day before when looking at what these guys are like. And the description I was given was extreme progressive metal. Now, when I think of extreme in the metal scene, I think of bands like Carcass, Behemoth, and Cradle of Filth. Very heavy, very dark and disturbing when it comes to imagery. Cult-like themes. I'm describing black metal here, guys. Have you called it that yet? I'm describing black metal. And then when I hit play on the album the next day, I was not greeted with that at all. I was a little put off by that. Now, while these guys do seem to take in some of that extreme metal approach on songs like Summer and Ventilate, I could not help but notice they don't do that very often. That extreme style is not always going to be on the album. The reason I mention this is because while many of the fans of this band are definitely going to know what they're in for sure, there are plenty of outsiders who will probably do their research first, like me. I did it because I'm a critic, but many other people will want to know what kind of band they're about to get in for. If they're ever told, hey, go listen to Loch Vostok, they might do the research ahead of time. And if they do that and then hit play, they are going to be thrown off really badly. So I'm just putting this disclaimer out here right now, guys. If you are thinking about checking out this band, just know that the extreme part of their genre name does not always happen in at least this album. Doesn't really happen that often, so just keep that in mind. But all that aside, let's take a look at the final results. The vocals, top notch, with great dirty vocals and operatic cleans. The drums, powerful, yet not too complicated, keeping things very interesting while also not driving too many people away. The keyboards are in the lineup. The bass, just as good as the guitars, though the guitars have the sweet advantage of those delicious, delicious solos. Mwah. All of this despite the Djenty presence, though me being a fan of Djent, I might be a little biased, and the lack of an extreme presence as well. But overall, this album was a pleasant listen front to back. While the extreme part of this album might be a little pulled back a little bit, it still doesn't take away from the intensity that this album actually brings forth. And yeah, Djent haters unite, but frankly, I don't give a shit. This album is not a Djent album. It may have a bit of a Djenty presence, but the rest of the album should be really good, even for Djent haters. So don't take my word with a grain of salt. Go fuck yourself and listen to Loch Vostok. But take it for what it is. I really enjoy this album. So my advice to you, listen to this album. Take a listen, take a spin, and save the polarized caps. I'm sorry! I could not help myself! You're making this too easy for me, Loch Vostok. Damn it, damn it, damn it. So that's my review of Loch Vostok's Strife. What are your thoughts on the album? What are your thoughts on the band altogether? Let me know in the comments below, because one comment, one suggestion, is one piece of effort to save the penguins. I will never not see that! But with that said, thanks so much for watching. If you guys like this video, hit the like button. If you're new here, hit the subscribe button. I will see you guys in the mosh pit next time. Have a good night, everyone.